It's a brand new morning, rise up to a brand new...
Good morning, and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. This morning I have the privilege of speaking about all that's happening in education, especially seeing that we have just reopened the new school term. And as I have this conversation in studio, I have with me this morning the Secretary for Education, Research and Technology, Ms. Zorisha Hackett, as well as the Technical Advisor to the division, Ms. Natasha. Good morning, ladies, and welcome.
Thank you, Shenell.
It's a pleasure to have you in studio with us this morning, especially seeing that yesterday we saw the kids going back out to school. We saw that you did such a powerful prayer yesterday, sending them back out,
Yes.
and just encouraging both students and teachers alike, in regards to putting their best foot forward for this new term.
And school year.
Yeah, definitely. But when we look at education from a broad perspective, specifically on the island of Tobago, we have seen some new trends happening, especially when we look at CXC and SEA.
Yes.
So I would like for you ladies to talk to us a bit about some of those trends that we're seeing in the results.
Certainly. Technical Advisor.
Yes, so good morning, everyone. Good morning to you all. We are very pleased with the results that we are getting in the SEA at the primary school level. It indicates that all of the initiatives and the interventions that we have begun to use throughout the sector are beginning to bear fruit. It is the first time, the 2024 SEA exam is the first time that we have attained the type of results that we have attained. In 2015, we had a total of about 196.3 as an average for our mean when we compare to the national mean, and we would have been fluctuating over the years, mostly with a downward trend, and we have surpassed our last year's performance by upscaling by 3 points. Now, that is something that we want to celebrate. We don't want it to be lost in the conversations. It means that everyone would have played their part, the parents, the students, the teachers, the school supervisors, all of the suppliers, nutrition, transport, etc. They would have worked together, they would have collaborated to help us to get every child's average upwards. And that is the trend that we want to continue. We have a number of standards that we have set for every level of the primary school. Secretary would have announced that our focus this year is going to be on literacy and numeracy. We want to ensure that students can matriculate from each level smoothly and can continue to advance in terms of the scores. I want to actually mention the score, if you allow me to just look at the actual result. The average performance for us this year would have been 196.65. That's the total weighted score that we'd have gotten as an average compared to the national mean. The girls are still surpassing the boys overall. The average of the girls is over the national mean, 200 plus 201. The boys, however, are trailing, and we do have more remedial boys. So we still have that tendency, though we have less remedial boys. There is a correlation, very strong correlation between mathematics performance and English performance. And that trend, as Secretary is going to explain,
is
continues.
Also there at the CSEC and the CAPE level.
Right.
Yeah.
So we are going to have to focus how we deliver teaching and learning to the boy child from the early childhood level all the way up, because that marriage between language and mathematics is critical, it's important. And we would see math has been suffering across the region at the higher level, the CSEC and the CAPE level. So we have to get that English language, that command of the language among the boys from way down, early childhood and primary level. That way they can have an opportunity to master mathematics.
And what about the results that we're seeing at the CSEC level?
So, we got those results I think it was the 26th or so of August, yeah? And of course, we lament on the fact that Tobago always has to play catch up with gaining the actual results and then spending time in a research department, actually collating the results. And so it's unfortunate and we have to, work on that. I've been speaking to Minister about the length of time it takes for us to get the information. I was also telling technical advisor that, we've always had these rankings of where the Tobago Education District lies. And we've been hovering in 7th or 8th for a very long time. And I'm very certain, at least at the SEA level, we're no longer there. And so we've asked Minister to provide, the information for us because it's going to inform the strategies we employ moving forward. And so just like SEA, we're seeing the correlation between English A in that regard and mathematics. The students that perform well at mathematics, it's because they naturally would have that tenacity to be dominant in the English language. And of course, English A at the CSEC level. And so it's the same thing, the same trend that we're seeing. And that is why the focus on literacy has to be at the forefront for the Division of Education. We have seen, for instance, at the Project Impact stage, how that focus there produces and that correlation, the actual taking a part of the data shows that we have to spend some time there. But what we're also noticing is the fact that it has to continue beyond the primary school. We're also looking at the fact that the focus in the ECCE needs to be different. And then on that male child, because the trends also show that gender separation, the data is showing that the females are outperforming the males at both levels.
And you also indicated that there's a need for teachers to incorporate a more creative model in terms of how they are teaching the kids.
Of course.
And we see that a lot of parents are taking their kids to more of the private institutions where they have multimodal learning. So what is being done to really push the teachers to adapt
when you
these
say
different
private
modes?
institutions, what are you speaking to specifically?
The private preschools and stuff like that,
Or
where
the
they have learning to play
right,
and
the Montessori method. Okay,
exactly. So
you say a lot. I don't know the statistics. I mean, we have 12 ECCEs under our purview, and then there are 5 servals that we give some support to. Based on the population, we're not really seeing that. As a matter of fact, we're seeing a lot of Tobagonians trying to get their children into our ECCs because they trust the standardization. They trust the fact that the transition is going to be smoother. Yeah? Yes, there are some private institutions that we look on at, and then we see that learn through play, as you spoke to, and the creativity. But I do not want to overshadow the hard work that is happening in the ECC program that is under our purview. And again, because we understand what the strategy is moving forward, is always best for that transition when it happens through our system. And so what we need to do as a technical advisor and myself would have to advocate strongly is that yes, there is that autonomy and that independence and that, you have that privilege of being able to run a private institution. But what we must have is some standardization. There must be some goals set and everyone must be moving towards that pathway, even if they're moving along different speeds. But we also have to be very careful in what we produce in the space as it relates to content for children, right? And that is why we've been focusing on this Tobago-centric curriculum and trying to actually, have the implementation stage be a smooth one. And we want it to not be only if you're attending one of the schools under division's purview, you're exposed to that. We want it to be a mindset shift on the island entirely. And that mindset shift has to come from educating the population and not only with training of our teachers or teachers in general. Yes, so it's all connected. And we're seeing it because, you want well-rounded citizens. Yes, you have a full certificate, but financial literacy is a challenge. Morals and ethics and understanding the politics of the day, the history of the country, your geography, the tourism product that we're pushing so much. And so that interconnectivity has to be in the space. And so we as a division of education are not only educating students, we're educating the population of Tobago.
Right. And, the conversation took place, we spoke before when you were rolling out that Project Impact, and we spoke about the incorporation of technology into the curriculum. Where are we with that, especially in regards to the policy?
So it's a totally different policy. It's the hybrid policy that we're going to have a marriage with the Tobago-centric policy.
So if I could mention quite a couple of the policies in an order. Remember, I mentioned that the results in the SEA, there is no single factor that we can point to say that is why we have been improving. We have introduced a number of different policy initiatives. At the early childhood level, we would have engaged with the Parliamentary Joint Select Committee last year and identified on a national scale what are some of the challenges, and there are many, within the early childhood sector. What we are doing, what we have committed to, because there is the review of the Education Act at this point in time to incorporate early childhood under regulations, is that we are, as DIRTEC, ensuring that private schools, the private early childhood centers, have the opportunity to register formally with the Division of Education and thereby become more standardized in terms of the curriculum, the curriculum delivery, and the standards that we actually incorporate at that level. They are allowed to train with us and to grow with us and to develop so that we all fit under all of the regulations, the international regulations, the UN Convention of the Rights of the Child, protecting the child's health and wellness, etc. So we want to all look more alike. So we are committed to guiding, even if you're in the private sector, those persons who choose to put their child in an early childhood private sector, we want to guide that. Apart from early childhood intervention, we have Project Impact. Project Impact focused very heavily on remedial transformation. And so we did literacy and numeracy, but we introduced the Tobago-centric approach to doing it.
Yes.
So
we delved into something different this year where we had a cohort of accelerated learners.
Brilliant.
Because I think not enough time is focused on the accelerated learner. I mean, yes, we're doing it on this at this end of the continuum, but on the other end, we have gifted students who literally stand apart from, you know, their peers, and we must be able to foster that type of engagement with them. You know, they're bored. They actually sit in classrooms, the teacher is challenging them, and then they're meeting all the expectations, even exceeding them. And then we have to be able to find a home for these students, ensure that they can push further than, you know, what the traditional classroom offers. And so we've done that. Our first phase, pilot almost. Our Buku government was the center for the accelerated learners.
And then we also had Roxborough.
Roxborough. So we had an east and west cohort, and we understand the value of that. We had a student just recently, Otley, attempting the CSEC English B exam and attaining a grade 1. And that is the type of opportunities we want to provide to students. We want students to understand, listen, I don't have to dumb down myself. You actually have students feeling as if there is no place for them in a classroom if they're talented, if they're gifted. And so we have to foster that type of engagement with these students and push them in a particular direction. And we've been doing it. We've done it, and we want to ensure that everything we do in the Project Impact has a place in the actual classroom. Yeah?
Yes, so continuing with the impact program, we would have arranged the curriculum in such a way that you had life skills, education, physical education, music, drama, art, etc. And one of the objectives that we realized was that joy of learning that both the teacher and the student enjoyed, and that collaboration, bringing in those parents into the circle. Because what we want at the end of the day is an effective school. Every school to be effective. In order for it to be effective, you need good curriculum, you need effective teachers, and you need a strong leader, a principal.
Yes.
And so,
center of it all.
Right. So we also looked at online learning to aid teaching and learning. We also looked at the accelerated learning policy and early childhood and special needs, all towards one goal: improving teaching and learning so that we create effective schools. And this year we want to improve our monitoring and evaluation systems. We're going to introduce the teacher, leader, accountable principal, effective schools model. So there's going to be heightened...
And strengthen our middle management teams as well. So there is some autonomy on the compound, and they feel responsible for the direction the school is taking. Yeah?
And so there's going to be that leader with zeroing in, we're having that spotlight on that teacher in the classroom, because Bannon, the greatest influence on a child's life in education is the teacher. So we want that teacher to lead and to be that change agent in the classroom. We want more success at the early childhood, primary and secondary level, right? We want ownership of our classes, and our principals need to own their space, and we hold them accountable for that space.
Excellent. Now we're going to take a quick break right here, and we're going to be back with lots more on this interesting conversation. See you soon right after this break. Good morning, and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago. As I indicated before, we're having a really interesting conversation as we talk all things education. I have in studio with me the Secretary for the Division of Education, Research and Technology, Ms. Zorisha Hackett, as well as Natasha, second, the Technical Advisor to the Division. And we have been talking about the CSEC results as well as the SEA results and all that's happening in regards to helping to develop the young minds of Tobago. Now, we see that the division is now taking a whole school approach. Before, we used to hear of the students who
like a
topped
rank,
the SCA and all
that
of
was
that.
actually a national policy that we also adopted because we saw the issues that arose from declaring students in a particular rank. There's an opportunity, just like CSEC and CAPE, to query marks. And we have challenges where, because it's deemed as preliminary results, making an announcement first, second, third, all the way up to 10th can pose some challenges, as we saw with that President's Award for the SCA child. I think it was 2020 or so. It became a national controversy. Legal teams came in. The student who was first was now in the third position, and they had to, give back the award. And so we saw the merit in not focusing on child. Now, it doesn't say that we shouldn't. And so we're encouraging parents, because you're free to inquire. We've never stopped the inquiry. I mean, it's information, you can gain that. But it's a whole school approach that we have adopted as DIRTEC, and we're seeing the benefits of it. Let me give you an example. Upon assuming office in 2022, we had 5 schools performing above the national mean. Right. By 2023, that increased to 7. This year, we had 11 schools performing above national mean, and the highest in 10 years of number of schools performing above national mean. And it's because now we're having our schools, our principals, the standard 5 teacher, understanding the value in leaving no child behind, literally. Right. What we had before was a focus on who you assumed would have been your top child, and an extra attention was placed. But that top child is gifted, intrinsically motivated, would probably be going to extra lessons. Other teachers played a role in that child, dominating in that regard. And so what we want is that every child, not any one particular child, every child being given the opportunity to advance and to matriculate from one stage to the next.
The new focus, well, not new, but the thrust renewed thrust. Yes, towards literacy and numeracy.
We must start there. And I think, yes, we understand all that's there, literally a platter of subject areas, especially when you move off to this secondary school. But I think the foundation has to be literacy and numeracy. And we focus on the literacy and not tie it in, but we're seeing what the correlation brings. As a matter of fact, if you look at an SCA examination now, you're going to see the value of promoting and focusing on literacy. They're problem questions. I looked at some of the questions and I'm like, what? This is what the SCA exam mathematics questions look like. You're unable to read. You're unable to even, decipher that question. Yeah? But we're seeing that the students who excel in literacy, again, correlation, that they're excelling in the mathematics naturally. Yeah? And so we pull together a committee. I love committees, and this is a voluntary committee. Not every committee is for remuneration. So we pull together a committee, our reading coaches, instructional mathematics coaches, entire team from curriculum. But we also have the external stakeholders sitting with us, because I always speak to the value of the Tobagonian who just wants to contribute. And so we've been sitting, and we are going to spend the next year, of course, and beyond, but you have to have a point where you just, place all the resources there in promoting the value of reading, the benefits of being able to comprehend what you're reading, right? And that read aloud as well. So you hear, the songs, ensure that the pronunciation is there. The student is actually able to internalize the content that's there. And we see all these programs there, the Jolly Phonics and everything, and we understand that even at the ECC, they start the process of, but we want the education system to be one that understands foundation and the value of foundation. If you can read, then everything else comes naturally to you. Yeah,
because a lot of people want to be accelerated, but the basics is essential, the foundation. And so there is a role that parents would have to play in ensuring
because that's
that
the thing. The students
is
are in school from 8 to 3 on average. Parents must reinforce when the students get home. What we have to pay attention to, though, and not necessarily literacy, but we have some issues where parents themselves feel challenged by what students are exposed to on a day-to-day basis in schools. So we want communities to also get involved. This is an opportunity for the village councils and the utilization of the community centers, and we can have some solid reading programs. And we have been we have a proposal there for about 2 years of trying to push another initiative called Community Impact, because we understand the value of, only 6 hours spent in a classroom. What happens to the remainder of the day? Who does the reinforcement? Does the community also push towards these goals that the division shares? And so we have to embark on a hit the road type campaign, canvas around the island, and have others, the entire island as a whole, understand the role each of us plays in education. So it's not just left up to the teacher in a classroom, work a miracle, and the child comes back home to an environment that does not foster, does not promote education in that way. And again, that's why I'm saying the division has to educate Tobago and not just have education be pushed in schools.
Is there any correlation that we've seen with low-income households and the performance of the students?
Yes, it's actually a topic that we have to speak to in depth. But we also have parents, even in those low-income households, understanding the opportunities they didn't have and pushing their children to do better than them. So it's not necessarily a case of because it's a low-income household, there is some, dysfunctionality in terms of education there. We have homes where parents didn't go to high school, but they want better for their children. And that is where the relationship with the teacher and the community comes in, because a teacher who understands the home environment does something more to push these children towards success.
Definitely. And you, in this term, not only focus on the students, but we heard you harping a lot on the teachers and their well-being and their mental health.
Yes.
Talk to us a bit about that.
And so I think that as a society, we expect too much from teachers. I spoke to it before. I spoke to the fact that a child gets to school by 8, spend a lot of contact hours in school with that teacher who may be the person motivating him or her. They may not be getting that from the home. But can you imagine that this is a safe space, and after 3 p.m., the safe space is taken away until 8 the next day? And we saw that in the COVID period. We saw what that limited contact, it was virtual in that regard, but we saw what the absence of that contact, the correlation between that and the results that was there during that period. The lack of socialization, and the fact that for some students, for some children, the teacher is that confidant, is that person that can motivate them, that person who pushes them in the direction of success. And so, yes, we have to spend some time focusing on health, mental health of our teachers. A part of it also speaks to us ensuring that our teachers are well taken care of, that they're given the just dues, that the environment is conducive for them being able to give of their all, to show up and show out on any given day in a classroom. But of course, Shenell, as a former teacher myself, and a teacher who's been challenged by the very things I'm now in a position to make a difference with, without money, all of this is wishful thinking. And so part of the conversation has to be, again, everything comes under the umbrella of autonomy, and the fact that as an island we have outgrown what is our portion of the national pie. In any given fiscal, $33 million on average is allocated for DP. Now, when I hear the naysayers speaking about the billions of dollars allocated to Tobago on an annual, we have to educate the population on the difference between recurrent expenditure. That's expenditure to do the basics, right? To keep the lights on, to pay your wages, the mundane everyday task. The DP is that part of the budget we need to focus on, and that's the part of the budget that has been declining. Last fiscal before that, 300 million was the allocation to the Tobago House of Assembly. But the last fiscal, it dropped to 260. And that is the conversation we need to have. Let's not focus on the recurrent. If you increase teacher salary by 4%, if you're doing more, you're sending... you're doing more in terms of all the resources provided to schools. So you're sending more students off to school, so transportation, bills increase, school, feeding, all of that. But the things that make the difference comes from the DP. And that's the area we've not been getting an increase. That's the area that has been gradually decreasing, as a matter of fact. And so we have to focus on that. What is the opportunity cost when the DP is not where it needs to be? And I would tell you what that is. It means that the resources, the initiatives to make the difference are not there. It means that the things we can really do when we said, let me fix this, can't happen, because what is the modus operandi is just paying a bill and finding creative ways to juggle the resources, not only of the division, but the resources of the THA. And, we're asked all the time, if the Division of Education is struggling, can't you, have some transfers from another division? That is what happens. We literally sit as an executive council and prioritize what needs to happen. And so, for instance, when we speak to a $20 million injection in the school repair program, that it was a $20 million injection in Trinidad with so many more schools, almost 800 schools. And that $20 million wasn't $20 million sitting down waiting on the school repair program. As a matter of fact, the financial year begins in October. The school repair program occurs in July, August. That's nearing the end of a financial year, with a DP that has to have allocations towards our assistance to tertiary students. It's the same DP. Or sport in education program, it's the same DP. Or multicultural unit, it's the same DP. And so all the things that we can really have an impact on comes from the DP. $33 million, 20 million school repair. And we've been spending money throughout the year. We've actually spent 8 million. And that's the thing. We don't only repair schools in July, August. We have an ongoing school repair program. You can't fix a broken toilet in July if it's broken in October. Yeah, you can't deal with a sewer in July, August if it gives you issues in December. And so it's ongoing. But just imagine that, Shenell, spending around let's say, upwards of $5 million throughout the year. And then spending a 20 of 33 million. What do you have left for your university students? For your students who are excelling in track and field and sports. You understand? That is the reality that we have to face. And so when we, we've not prioritized this or we've not prioritized that, we don't have enough furniture in schools. We don't have, these are the resources that come from the same place. Right. And so what this would mean is a foregoing of one for the next. And these are the tough conversations we need to have. Because in all of that, and going back to the original point, you still have to take care of your teachers. A backlog of increments left there by the previous administration. Backlog of gratuity. Some teachers haven't been paid their gratuity in about 9-10 years on contract. And so all of that is what we met as an administration. And so finding creative ways and putting a little here, putting a little there, and keeping the place open for business has to be the priority. And that is my goal as Secretary of Education, trying to meet the needs in every area without having to shut down. But again, the tough conversations need to be had. Should we forego in 1 year school repair and just refurnish our schools after spending $4 million in 2022 on furniture? You know what I mean? When we reopened, that's how much we spent on furniture.
Right.
Yeah?
And you have shifted gears a bit in regards to the in regards to the school repair program, because previously it was managed under the PIU unit at the Division of Education, and now it has been subcontracted, or it has
the
been
project
given
managers
to...
through executive council decision is EID cut, and the THA has been utilizing EID cut a lot. You'd see, them being utilized across divisions.
Right.
Yeah?
And it's as though there is a dark cloud over that school repair, because even before you came into office, there has always been a problem when school
I like that. and the issue is national, yeah? The issue is national, so it's not isolated to the Tobago space. What does that speak to? What I think happens is our schools are aged, Shenell. Our schools are aged. The newest school we have in the space is giving us the most issues, Scarborough RC. Yeah? Before Scarborough RC, I think it was Scarborough Methodist. But I don't know of any other school that was built in my lifetime but those two. If you have aged plants and you've seen cornerstone and some schools from the 60s, 40s, and so on, you have aged plants, you have to constantly provide routine maintenance to them. There's no doubt about it. Yeah? What is also a challenge is the fact that you can't just walk up to a school and say, contractor, go there, or contractor, go there. That's not the process. There is a strict procurement process, strict, that I wouldn't be making a jail for, I can tell you that. And so EID cut takes the project up after the scoping. Let me tell you what the challenge is though. It happened with Scarborough Sex roof over their auditorium. So you have a leaking roof and you went to lift up one galvanized to replace that. I'm trying to be very simple with it here. And after lifting it up, you're seeing the corrosion of all the steel work there. So you attempt to fix a few beams. And by the time you're attempting to fix a few beams, you're realizing the entire roof can cave in because of how corroded it is. So your scoping to move a galvanize because it's leaking, yeah, for $20 becomes $40 when you move those corroded beams, and then becomes $100 when you have to do over the entire roof. Now with the roof leaking on the stage is now damaged. So you have to do over this. And let me tell you, the scoping for the school repair program occurs in January, February of any given year. But by the time you get to July, what you thought you had to do on a school, the problems are exacerbated. A roof that you thought you had to change now becomes a roof and a ceiling. And because we have to manage our limited resources, variations are a thing that cost us, Variations cost us. If a contractor goes in and he has to move one galvanized sheet, and when he gets there, he realizes he has to move two, we have a cost attached to that. And so what we try to do is be as precise with the scoping as possible. But after the scoping, here the next step. After you scope the work for each school and that's prepared by PIU, the next step is that you prioritize. So we said every school would come with 10, 11 areas that they want. And if they want concrete benches, we may say, listen, the concrete benches would do wonders for recreation. But right now you need 3 toilets replaced entirely. So let's try to replace the toilets first. Those are health and safety, and speak to hygiene and all of that. And then let's try to see if we can work on the concrete benches. But soon we're going to speak to how we found a strategy to treat with that. We have an activity on Friday that creatively we have come up with to treat with those other areas, but I'm going to come to that. So you prioritize. You literally give me, in order, ranking what is most important to you as a school. And we allow the schools to do that. And then it comes back to our school supervision unit and it's confirmed. Yeah, these are the important areas. But a school may have 3 areas that's important to that school. But when we look at all our schools, then we're saying, you know, your 3 priorities are not as critical as this other school's priorities. So when we prioritize internally in the schools, then we prioritize across the entire system. After the prioritization exercise, EID CUT issues a public call for submission of expressions of interest for the program. This is then followed by the responses of the expressions of interest. They are assessed and the contractors are grouped into the type of works they can perform. Then the priority scopes of works that we agree to as a division are sent to EID CUT and they conduct the procurement process. So it happens at their headquarters there in Cove. Then after that procurement process, EID CUT develops a quantity surveyor's assessment to determine the internal estimate for each school. At that stage, depending on the value of the works to be done at the school, a determination is made as to whether we group the schools in packages. So if we have schools in the east of Tobago all having to do plumbing works, those are grouped as packages. Or we may have schools as isolated packages. After that, there's a tender evaluation committee that sits and assesses the tenders received in accordance with their scoring criteria outlined in the tender document as prepared by OPR. And then, upon receipt of approval, the contract documents are executed between the contractor and EID CUT. All the relevant stakeholders advise, and then the contractors go on to get the project started. Shenell, that's not a 2-day process. And bearing in mind that we could be very risky and say, listen, we're scoping in January and whatever is on the scope, that's all we're doing. We could play hardball like that. But what happens, the reality is, and let me give you another example, a week or 2 before school closed, we had really bad weather with Beryl, tropical storm, moving into a hurricane, passing over us, thank God. But a school, let's say for instance, a school in the east, Ebenezer Methodist. That wasn't on their scope to replace a roof, but that suddenly became because of a natural disaster. And so no matter how much planning we do, schools with people in and out of them would have repairs to do. And we have to manage that, as I said, with the limited resources.
One of the bigger costs that you often occur, especially with the school repair, is the furniture.
Listen to me. So furniture is not a part of the school repair. We treat it furniture as under that minor equipment and replenishing of materials to schools.
Right.
So it's separate and apart. What we aim to do is when we're going to hand over a school that's been refurbished, you hand over all the resources that you think would enable you to have effective school management, and so we aim for that. But
in regards to the actual equipment, especially those tables and chairs, what type of maintenance or repair program is in place to, try to salvage a number of those?
So two things.
Every year
it's the same.
Hundreds and hundreds of
having to
tables
be
and
disposed
chairs.
of, So one thing though, let me make a plug for URP before I forget. URP, through the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and the Environment, has been bailing out the division. Now we're paying them for it. Because I don't ever want, you see, that's the thing. When one division assists another division, they're utilizing resources to be used for something under that particular division. And so URP has been bailing us out in the primary schools and ECCEs. I mean, they've been working overtime and going above and beyond the call to assist us there. So we have a continued distribution of furniture in the primary schools. You will always have everything you want at the beginning of the school term. We manage that all the time. In the division as well, the resources are scarce. And so we look at where the needs are and we continuously distribute the furniture at the primary schools. In the secondary schools, Roxborough Secondary embarked on an initiative, and they've been doing it for a while. I know Bishop's High School has it as well, where they refurbish their furniture, literally in their metalwork shop, where they refurbish it. And so we've had some issues with furniture in terms of not being able to refurbish in time. Obviously, if you're trying to assist in that regard, it doesn't mean that the division throws its hands up and says, listen, you're refurbishing, so it means that we're not going to replenish on our regard. But Shenell, the conversation goes back to limited resources. As secretary, I would want to open every school term with brand new furniture in every school. But there must be some responsibility also allocated to the students.
And the principals as well.
Principals are doing their best, teachers are. I'm speaking to the students here. You have to understand that it's a limited resource that afforded you this particular furniture. Chair, desk.
Well, we know when you put that pressure on the principal, they put the pressure on the students.
But we it's management. It's just about management. And as I said, $4 million 2 years ago on furniture. I mean, it didn't replenish every school. It didn't replenish every classroom. But of course, these things must be managed. And I'm saying that there must be some responsibility attached to any facility, to any resource that's in our schools. And we have to find a way to be able to manage that. I mean, you're foregoing something else every time you do something that you've done before. And so if you spend money on the furniture, does it mean that you're foregoing paying of some increments or gratuity? These are the tough conversations we need to have. And I want us as a people to understand the value in what's there in our space in terms of our facilities and having some responsibility, taking responsibility on managing these limited resources.
All right. We're going to take a quick break right here and we come back as we wrap up the discussion. See you soon right after this. Good morning, and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. If you are just joining us, well, that's unfortunate because we have been having a really interesting conversation with everything that's happening in education here in studio with the Secretary for Education, Research and Technology, Zorisha Hackett, as well as the Technical Advisor, and Natasha second. And even as we wrap up our discussion this morning, we know that something is brewing in the Division of Education. Something interesting is happening this Friday, and I hope to hear more about it from Ms. Natasha second. Tell us what's happening.
Well, I'm extremely excited, Shenell and Tobago, to talk about our approach, our unique approach to get some of those resources that Secretary elaborated on.
Our creative approach at that.
Yes, we have been starved, and it's not been today, it's been decades. We've been starved of resources for our development as a people. We cannot, however, just, throw hands in the air and allow the young men with so much potential to choose to join gangs and create different kinds of families and create different kinds of trauma in our society. We can't allow our young women who are accelerated or who have great talents with their culinary skills or just different types of intellect. We can't just allow them to go through the system while we pay bills and we pay debts. So we are hosting Friday, the 5th, this Friday at the Magdalena Grand. The 6th? Is it the 6th?
Yeah.
I think it's the 5th, man. Well, this
Friday
Friday,
is the 6th.
right, Friday the 6th, we are hosting
a stakeholders brunch.
Stakeholders brunch, the Secretary's stakeholders brunch. What is going to happen there? We have invited our principals and the division, different programs within the division, to identify the projects that we think can directly improve student and teacher behavior, directly involve
those DP areas that we are
parents.
juggling with the resources
Right.
to be able to execute. So instead of throwing our hands up and saying, listen,
Yes.
and making the tough decisions of which to do and which not to do, we've decided
We
to
are
go
going
to
to do.
cooperate
Right.
Trinidad and Tobago.
So we are inviting
Partner.
to come with us and partner with us, and that is one of the methods encouraged by the UN Sustainable Development Goals.
Yes.
Partner and get the things done.
Yes.
So we have invited embassies, corporate Trinidad, corporate Tobago,
Alumni associations,
Everyone.
contractors.
come hear our presentation on all of our strategies, all of our projects, all of our interventions, look at our analyses, see our trajectory, see what we can do for all of our people,
Yes.
and invest.
Yes.
Invest in those projects. So we're going to display them all. We're going to have a discussion, and we're going to show the links between socioeconomic status
Yes.
and performance academically, the importance of technical vocational options for our young men
Yes.
who are dropping out of school or who are failing school. The links between math and English, the need for research.
Yes.
We must expand the research department, and we cannot do so without money and without funding and resources. So we are encouraging you, if you have received our invitation, if you haven't, you can call us and get your invitation.
Yes.
You are a corporate sponsor, you are a personality who can make a contribution as an individual. We want you there. We want you to participate. We want you to contribute.
Right.
This is all of our Tobago,
Yes.
and we must put our resources, regardless of what is happening at central government and Trinidad. That is not our business. We have to infuse what we need to infuse in our education sector so that we can have a fully functional, effective, and productive society. So come Friday.
Technical advisor spoke to Sustainable Development Goal number 4, actually, quality education. And we realized that we need partnerships with all of Trinidad and Tobago and the world at large. So Diaspora, I mean, we're starting this year, but that's the ultimate goal. It mirrors an adopt a school project. Adopt a school or adopt a project. Initiative. Yeah? And so what we want is not to give up on the fact that we understand that yes, we have to keep the lights on, and yes, we have to pay our teachers, and we want to be able to get into education in a way that we've never been able to get into before for want of more funding. And so this initiative more or less gives Trinidad and Tobago and the wider world the opportunity to see the hard work of the Division of Education, to see the vision of the Division of Education, and come on board. Come on board with us. We would promote that the branding of whoever that corporate sponsor is on the school, they're able to get into the school and work directly with principal and students to attain whatever that project is. We're going to literally have a brochure of the projects that's there, so they actually have the opportunity to choose something that, you know, resonates with whatever their business is or so.
I'm glad that you indicated that there would be a brochure, because immediately when you spoke about the diaspora, there would be individuals who are not present in Tobago
and so
who are
already,
interested in
so we're going to have
giving
a
back.
website where we're going to have all the projects. So you're going to see the schools. St. Andrew's Anglican wants to embark on an agriculture project in earnest. This is what is required to do it. And persons who have that as a dream, and to be able to do that partnership and have it as a desire in terms of shared goals, you jump on board. A Table Peace government wanting to do a pan in school program, right? And right now with limited resources from the division, they only have 10 pans, but they want to build out a pan room, things like that. But more than that, even our special, right? Yes,
are interested
so
in
through the
giving
alumni
back to their primary
associations, and then
school.
they come to us, and that's the thing. We have a strong alumni association in the secondary schools, but there are lots of persons with primary schools. They are living abroad, as you said, and they want to be able to give back to their primary school. So we're trying to push alumni associations in the primary schools and even in the preschools if they're still in existence. Yeah, but we also want to spend some time also focusing on our special schools. We want to promote those. So Happy Haven and our school for the deaf, and right, and we also want to spend some time focusing on the Rocks Road Trade Center. That is, we have renewed energy in that space right now. They reopened yesterday. They have 50 students enrolled, largest cohort in a long time. And so even there, so we're bringing all our schools to the forefront, and we're promoting them in a way where we can have these mutually beneficial partnerships with corporate Trinidad and Tobago.
So if I could just throw in, when we talk about that trade school, we need contractors to come and devote some time up there and help us to fix some of the infrastructure. We need persons to help us with those online devices that we want to roll out. We have the beautiful policy. We want to train all of teachers, but then we need the actual devices to be at every single school. So we want you, if you have that capacity, to get us 1,000 laptops, 1,000 tablets, 500, 4. We want you to come to our event, and we want you to partner with us.
But
These
it's not
are
only
real
tangibles,
things.
Not only
Real
tangibles,
things.
as technical advisor is saying, not only the cash and the training, expertise. That there's no price you can place on that. Volunteerism,
We have to
giving
partner.
back. Yeah, and so we've had persons coming to the forefront and saying, listen, I just want to be able to help you with some reading programs. So I just want to be able to give back the fact that I've been a carpenter, and I think that we need some more tech work training in our school. So that is what we want. It's an open call to give back. It's an open call to give back.
Excellent. And we wrap up our discussion this morning. And before we do so, is there anything that you want to say to the Tobago public?
Yes.
Specifically, the persons that you're inviting on Friday.
I'll let her speak to the persons we're inviting on Friday. What I want to do is speak to the Tobago public on this responsibility that I've been given as Secretary of Education. I mean, I raised my hand and I did the oath of office to the president on Friday, the 10th of December, 2021, a day after becoming Assemblyman of Bethesda Leketo. And it's a very serious responsibility that I take. Being responsible for policy and transformation of education in Tobago is no easy feat, especially after meeting so much that was broken in a system that I felt needed some more focus and some more resources injected into it. But with this responsibility comes a lot of management, and the management comes from a place of having to satisfy the needs of our teachers, who must be armed, before going on to the battlefield, literally armed, mental health issues, being paid their just dues, and so on. And then ensuring that no child is left behind on that end, while also still being able to manage the staff of the actual division, to ensure that they're in the right frame of mind to be able to carry out their duties. And so with this responsibility, because, of course, the responsibility comes a lot that you must pour into it. And it cannot be done from a place of being remunerated for it. I always say, everyone thinks that it's a cushy job and you get, but the type of focus and the type of passion, energy, and commitment that has to be provided there, it isn't something that you can pay for, it isn't something that you can buy, it isn't something that you can fake. It has to be very genuine. And so my love for education and my love for that transition of minds is what keeps me going. And so I want to be able to stay on course, to stay the course with us as well, and to ensure that because our responsibility is to keep educating them and expressing the challenges while finding ways to mitigate and finding ways to alleviate situations. And it's not just about giving up at this point. And so I'm going to continue in my duty in this role. And I just want to wish all my teachers, students, and even parents who must be a part of this quest with us, Welcome back to academic. Welcome back to a new term and welcome to academic year 24-25. We're going to work hand in hand as we've been doing. We know that the challenges are there. Challenges will never end, but we're going to work in a very, very collaborative way to ensure that the needs are met and that our vision is achieved. Yeah?
Excellent. And the second, we know that you have a big event happening at the Magdalena Grand Hotel this Friday. So
Yes. Just before I say that, I just wanted to talk to the parents whose kids are at home. There are a number of children who aren't at school. They're not enrolled at school for a number of reasons, whether it's a special needs issue or the socioeconomic background of the parents just didn't allow them to understand the value of education. We want your child in school. You are the first advocate for that child, and you have to find us, have the conversation, so that we can help you to get those kids in school. So congratulations to every parent who has their kid in school and who organized and everything. But for you who have those children at home, we want to encourage you to come and have a conversation with us. Yes. On Friday, everyone who wants to participate in building a better Tobago, an autonomous Tobago, education is the key to that. And we want to invite you to find out about not just our event on Friday, which is us going to the Magdalena to speak to corporate Trinidad and Tobago to get our resources, to get our projects done. We want you to be able to come in and find out how you can contribute, whether it's teaching, whether it's
on board,
speaking, whether it's whatever. Come and find out how you can contribute so that we can all secure our island together through education.
Thank you. And before we go, I like the fact that you touched on, those families who were unable to send their kids back up to school.
Or have never sent their kids to school. Because we do have that here in Tobago.
Kids like that.
We encounter situations and incidents of that all the time. A family with kids that have never been to school, never gone to ECCE. They're 7, 8 and never stepped one day into a school.
And so, I just want you to put the contact information out there for persons who are in that situation, because we know there is the student support unit at the Division of Education that's responsible for that.
That's actually the unit, yes.
Right, and there are persons who were not financially prepared to go back to school this week.
Yes.
And they still have those same financial challenges. But we also want to be able to
be our brother's keeper. If you know of a family like that, in a very confidential way, either the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection or us, come and let us know. We would intervene. We would ensure that we get into those communities and see and it's a socioeconomic problem for the most part when that happens. But we also have families, because their child may be differently abled, they've kept them away from society. And so we want to be able to have Tobago understand that in this inclusive Tobago that we're building out, we want each one to look out for another and have us know that there is a particular circumstance that needs to gain our attention. So yes, the division's number is 2990781. I can't remember the extension for student support services at this time, but I can say that the extension for my office is 3003. And once they call my office, my staff will direct them accordingly. So 2990781, extension 3003. If you know of a family that would need that type of assistance, and not only those who are not going to school, but even in school and having some socioeconomic challenges that may prevent them from consistently attending, and there's some social protection issues that we need to be aware of. Although we have our guidance officers and social workers at schools, sometimes there needs to be an intervention at a higher level. So we're here, ready, willing, and able to take up that mantle along with Secretary B. Israel over at Social Protection. We want to be able to engage in that type of partnership to ensure that, we really, when we speak about Greater City Island and the planet, that we take care of all facets of society.
Thank you so much, Secretary. Yeah? And thank you so much, Technical Advisor and Natasha second, for coming in and, letting Tobago know what is happening, especially where education is concerned. Thank you for your time this morning. I want to thank you guys at home for sticking with us this morning. Thank you for your likes, your shares, and your comments, and all that you have been doing to make Tobago Updates the #1 broadcaster here on the island of Tobago. Have a great day, and thank you again.
And they don't